I stood on the curb, the night air biting through my thin jacket, my entire life stuffed into 2 overstuffed duffel bags at my feet. The porch light flickered behind me, casting long shadows across the driveway, but I didn't dare look back. My parents' voices still echoed in my ears, sharp, final, the kind of words you can't take back. I kept replaying the argument, searching for the moment when things went from tense to impossible, but it all blurred together. Accusations, slammed doors, the cold certainty that I wasn't welcome anymore. I tried to steady my breath, but the ache in my chest only grew heavier. I was alone, truly alone, and the world suddenly felt impossibly big and empty. I had nowhere to go, until I remembered Grandpa's old card at the bottom of my backpack. Growing up, our house was always cold, no matter how high the thermostat was set. My parents believed in tough love, though it always felt like just the tough part. Praise was rare, affection even rarer. I learned early to keep my head down, to not expect much more than criticism or silence. My brother, on the other hand, seemed to have a secret map to their approval, always knowing the right thing to say, the right way to be. I was the outsider in my own family, the one who never quite fit the mold they'd set. But Grandpa was different. He'd show up on Sunday afternoons with a bag of pastries and a quiet smile, settling into the old armchair in the corner. He never asked probing questions or offered empty reassurances. Instead, he'd listen, really listen, while I talked about school, my dreams, or just the little things that made me happy. There was a gentleness to him, a warmth that made me feel seen. Grandpa had a mysterious past, stories he never quite finished, and one day, he pressed a faded bank card into my hand. "For emergencies only," he said, his eyes serious. I never thought I'd actually use it. The next morning, I wandered the city in a daze, the weight of my bags digging into my shoulders and the ache of last night's words still raw in my chest. Hunger gnawed at me, and every option seemed to close in on itself. Finally, with nowhere else to turn, I found myself standing in front of the old brick bank on Main Street. Grandpa's card clutched so tightly in my hand that my knuckles turned white. I hesitated at the door, my heart pounding, terrified that the card would be declined, or worse, that I'd be accused of something I didn't understand. Inside, the bank was quiet and sterile, the kind of place where everyone seemed to know exactly what they were doing, except me. I approached the teller, my voice barely above a whisper as I slid the card across the counter. She frowned, typing something into her computer, then excused herself to fetch the manager. My stomach twisted. Was I in trouble? Had I done something wrong? The manager appeared, a serious-looking man in a crisp suit. He took the card, scanned it, and then his face went pale. Without a word, the manager motioned for me to follow him. My legs felt numb as I trailed behind, the curious eyes of the other customers burning into my back. He led me down a quiet hallway and into a small, glass-walled office. The door clicked shut behind us, sealing me in with the sterile scent of paperwork and the hum of fluorescent lights. He gestured for me to sit, then took a seat across from me, the card still in his hand. For a moment, he just stared at it, as if trying to solve a puzzle that didn't make sense. "I need to verify something," he said, his voice low and careful. He typed a series of numbers into his computer, glancing at me every so often, as if expecting me to bolt. I sat frozen, my mind racing with worst-case scenarios. Maybe the card was stolen, maybe I'd be arrested, maybe this was all some terrible mistake. But then he turned the screen toward me, his expression unreadable. "Do you know what this means?" he asked, pointing to the balance displayed in bold, impossible numbers. $1,200,000,000. I stared at the screen, my breath caught somewhere between a gasp and a laugh. Disbelief crashed into fear, then hope, then back to disbelief. I shook my head, unable to form words. I had no idea my life was about to change forever. It didn't take long for word to get out. My phone, silent for days, suddenly buzzed with messages from my parents, pleading, apologizing, insisting they'd made a mistake. They wanted to talk, to work things out, as if the years of cold shoulders and harsh words could be erased by a single windfall. When I finally agreed to meet, their faces were a strange mix of desperation and forced affection. I could see right through it. I looked them in the eye, my voice steady for the first time in years. Why did Grandpa trust me with this? Why did you never tell me about his past, or what he left behind? The room grew tense, my parents fumbling for explanations, stories of old grudges, jealousy, and choices made out of pride. The truth spilled out in fragments. Grandpa had always wanted to protect me, to give me what he couldn't give his own children. The money was his way of making sure I'd never feel as alone as he once did. For the first time, I held the power, and the truth that I end the days that followed. I found myself standing at a crossroads I never could have imagined. The bitterness of rejection still lingered, but it no longer defined me. I thought about Grandpa, his quiet strength, his gentle way of seeing the best in people, even when they couldn't see it in themselves. The fortune he left behind wasn't just money, it was a chance to rewrite my story, to choose who I wanted to become. I could have used it to punish those who hurt me, to prove a point, but that wasn't the lesson Grandpa wanted me to learn. Instead, I started small, helping others who felt invisible, just as I once did. I reached out to old friends, built new connections, and slowly, the emptiness inside me began to fill with something warmer. I realized that family isn't always the people you're born to, but the ones who stand by you when the world turns cold. Grandpa gave me more than security. He gave me hope. Sometimes, the family you need is the one you create for yourself.